Don't know if I'm in frame or not, but hey people. So, as you can see, my walls are bare. Um, I, my parents came recently, and I decided it would be a good idea to take my play stuff down just because it's the right thing to do for my parents. But instead of just putting it back up, I decided I'd bring the box out and, as I'm putting it up, explain what it is. So first thing in the box is uh, something I'll be talking about very soon. Yeah, I contacted this company and they were nice enough to not only send me links and send me copies of what they do, but they sent me some hard copies, hardback and a softback version of what they do, and I will be talking about that very shortly. Um, First thing I'm putting up is my leather pride flag. Oh, wrong ones. I really don't care which way the heart goes. Just kind of look at it and go, what's right? I think that's about right. Next thing is a cane that eventually will go back to its original owner and will not ever be used again. I will never be using it in particular, but yeah, there's a specific reason for that, and I don't feel like getting into it. This was a crop given to me by an old slave that still, I think it's probably about 10 years old, still works beautifully. I actually have a couple crops here. Again, this is one of the few pieces that I've bought. I have very few pieces in this box that I bought. This was actually bought at a Petco that had a livestock section, horsing section, in the town of Victorville, California, where my family lives. They live around that area, actually mostly in Hesperia, California, but that's where my mom and dad and aunt, uncle, and cousin all live. But this has been a very faithful, I mean, I think I've had this longer than I've had this YouTube channel. So this is like 10 or 15 years old, and still beautiful, beautiful crop. This one was a gift from another slave that I had. This is one I would not personally buy for myself, but I think it does leave fun marks and does sound pretty good. I don't, I'm not a big fan of the shorter crops. Not as fun. Oh, monster. This was the first flogger that I bought. This wasn't the first toy. The first toy I bought has been lost a long time ago. But this one is one that I've kept. The only altercation is I have some grip tape here that eventually I need to replace because it's not very good. It just needs to be replaced eventually. This is my leather leash. This actually I got at the old job I used to have when I worked in a kennel. This was an actual dog leash, but the full leather, being full leather and stuff, they were just tossing a bunch because they had a bunch of excess leashes, and they don't, when you're doing that kind of work, you don't use this kind of leash. So I was like, nope, I'm taking that home. And that sits on my door. Workhorse. Probably my favorite flogger I've ever owned. I've talked about this multiple times, but this was custom made for me by the company. Specifically, you can see that it fits perfectly in my hand, but also I wanted that, so I can do a lot of fun stuff with that. This is that cheap flogger that I got. I'll deal with you in a minute. This is that cheap flogger I got from that set of cups, which I'll be getting to in a little bit. But I've actually found this is a pretty skinny. If you're just doing basic light things, it doesn't really do much, but it can get pretty darn stingy. Oh, Lexan cane. This original cane was actually about that long, but it broke somewhere in here, so I just took the plastic tip and put it back. This I got at the leather conference in Phoenix, Arizona, that helped me a great deal, specifically when it comes to dealing with getting to my more primal side. Primal play, I don't think I've done much on it, but yeah, I think it would be an interesting thing. This is another crop that I got. I actually got it at the same time I got this guy from the same girl. This is definitely a shorter crop. Doesn't have much bend at all, so it is a very super stingy kind of a piece. Actually, I'll get a couple of these out simultaneously. Oh, these two I made from materials that I found. I found some string that I found at an old job I had, and this was just left in somebody's stuff that was on a curb, just some stuff that was being thrown away. But these two are absolutely super, super stingy floggers. This guy, of course, you can actually see me make this. This is the one that I actually made in that video I have of how to make a flogger. I think it's a great little flogger. It's just stingy as hell. This guy was wow. This was the very first BDSM toy I ever owned, but I also made it. When I was being trained in the lifestyle, the mistress who trained me threw me this rope and said, make a flogger. No idea what I was doing. But I made something that has been very, very durable. I was 18 or 19 at the time, and she said, make a flogger, and this is what I made, and this is what I was trained on. This is what I learned flogging on. So yeah, it's very, very special to me. Oh, this is the Mr. S. I've had a couple really good experiences with this. I've had some really bad experiences with this. I bought this from Mr. S Leather. Very nice. Like I said, the more I've played with it, the better I've got with it. And I think over time I can get really good at it. As you can see, lengthwise, it's almost the same length as Monster, but this is leather, this is not. So, yeah. This, I have no clue where it came into my life. It's another one of the, same type of material, paracord. Again, it's something that just wound up coming home with me one night, and I have no idea where I got it. This is just leather shoestrings. Another, super stingy flogger that I actually wound up making probably 8 or 10 of these. I wound up getting a deal on a bunch of leather shoestrings, and I made a whole bunch of them, and I gave them away to friends. Um, so yeah, there's still 8 or 10 of these floating out there somewhere in the world. Let's see. Yeah, this was a work in progress that kind of got halted, so I'm not even going to put that up on the wall. The kids. The reason I call these the kids and not the twins is because they're not twins. Twins refer to floggers that are made from the exact same leather, from the exact same hide, made at the exact same time, from the exact same artist. And if you don't think that, like these two were not really artist floggers, uh, this is definitely not an artist flogger. This definitely is an artist flogger. These are nice. Getting better at getting the thud on them. Oh, it's that collar from that set. Like I said, for the price that you're paying for it, it's definitely worth it. And some cuffs. Funky little ball gag. Just some hardware. Nothing particular. This was actually, I got this at a place here in Utah called the DI. It's a thrift store. It's originally supposed to be meant for using on pizzas, but it's actually a pretty decent paddle with a little bit of an edge. So yeah, that was a good one. I think it was a whole $1 to buy that. That's another thing when you're doing this. When you go into places like any of the thrift shops or whatever like that, keep your eyes open. You never know when you're going to find a cool toy. This was made by a gentleman I knew in California who unfortunately passed away. And this was a piece that he had made for me just before he passed. So it's a split tongue slapper. I added the string just so I could hang it. Hog tie. And one thing I have to bring up about this, I have to retract something I said in the review, unboxing and review of this. I'm pretty sure these are now metal because I've used it several times and they haven't broken on me, but don't quote me on that. Could just be some kind of really good plastic. Stethoscope for some medical play. The hatchet. This is actually a paddle that's also a very blunt instrument with a slight edge on it, so I can get 3 toys in one. This was actually when I actually made this. This is one of the toys that I actually made. A friend was making a large paddle for her master. It was originally supposed to be like that, but this piece of wood, this kind of expensive wood, she had bought several pieces and it shattered right about here. So I took it and redid it, and I was like, looking at it, this piece kind of jagged out here and stuff. I went, I could do something with that, and I wound up making this, and it's one of my favorite toys because it's a really solid hit, can be very blunt, and then I can come in and with that sensitive skin do almost a knife play without too much worrying about damaging of the skin. And we've got two more pieces in here. This was a gift from somebody. I don't remember exactly who, but I know I got this as a gift. This was something I got very, very, very early on. I didn't actually own any paddles or slappers at the time. And they're like, here, take it. It's something that we do in this community. I've done it hundreds of times where I'll see somebody playing and I'm like, you don't own this, or you don't have that, or somebody say, hey, that's a really cool thing, or that's a really cool thing. One of the times I can remember doing it was I was going to a event in a park. It was a fenced off area in a park, and it was a gathering of all the leather community in Los Angeles, and we were all there, just, barbecuing and having fun and games, and I had a cane that had sort of a dragon's head that I'd gotten for pretty cheap. But if you bought it, most places it would have been expensive. I don't know what it was, but I had this cane and I had been walking around with it for a while, and a mistress came up to me and said, wow, that's a really cool cane, and we started talking for a little bit, and I went, here, take it. She went, really? I went, yeah, here, take it. It's yours. I didn't think twice about it. I just thought, you know what? That's really, that's something that if she can get use out of, that's what matters. Last thing, this is a modified dog collar. The place I worked where I got my leash, the rule was they had to cut off the collars. They couldn't, some of the more vicious dogs, they had to cut the collars off. I decided when I saw this, I was like, nope, that's mine. Instead of being trash, because I went, I could do something with this. And what I decided to do was just use it as because when you do it, when you're twisting it, it can hit either this way or this way. So you can kind of get two different effects simultaneously. We've also used that as a punishment toy. I don't recommend it because I made mistakes by breaking my own rule about doing play as punishment. So as you can see, besides some dryer stuff, that empties the box. Like I said, I will be doing something on these guys in the near future, but that's kind of it for now. Be well and safe.